Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah, and I'm here with Devon O'Brien Ash, and he is a dating coach. And we're going to talk about all things dude today, right? And dating from a guy's perspective, and where all the good guys are, and all the questions that you want to know. Hello, Devon. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Good to be on here. This is very exciting.
Oh, it's fun for me too. So Devon
Awesome.
and I have already found all the things we have in common, and we're you know, besties before the
Yep.
college part. So this is going to be fun. So Devon, tell people a bit about what you do.
Sure. So yeah, I've been teaching uh, dating and just general social skills for about 13 years professionally. Um, I have a company called Social Fluency where we teach men and women how to interact more effectively, build better relationships. I'd say 90% of my clientele are men.
Mhm.
And then there's also a whole phase of my time that I was doing corporate training, worked with Apple, worked with YouTube, worked with Google, worked with a bunch of tech companies, teaching their teams how to connect more effectively and build better relationships. But really what I do for the last 5 years, when it really comes down to it, if I was to distill it, it is developing confidence. It is letting people know how to be assertive with people. It's letting people know how to uh, navigate social interactions in a way that makes both sides feel really good, and doing it from a really authentic place. No tricks, no kind of weird manipulation, just honest, integrity first kind of interactions. So that's what I do.
So I'll have to tell you a funny story about me. I was drinking my ginger and
Uh-huh.
greens as we were doing. So on the day of my book launch, I was during COVID, so I did an online book launch. Okay. And I had this piece of spinach from the ginger and greens because I was trying to eat healthier. I had this spinach in my teeth.
Oh my
And
God.
doing the live, and people are commenting, and it's for my freaking book launch. Okay. So this is not just I do lives all the time. You probably do too. But
I'm
this
suddenly
wasn't,
getting self-conscious if I have
I
something in my
know, right?
teeth.
I see that. Because see, my teeth are usually really a great feature, but
Bang. Yeah.
that day it was bang, but it was
Okay.
bang boom,
Okay.
right? It was very bad. And but it was so funny. And they talked because I was just oh, look. And I kind of segued into, it would be really easy for me to stop and start this over.
Mm-hmm.
But I teach you about not being perfect and being confident despite that. So how could I authentically, and it can't, and in the replay, people were saying, you have spinach in your teeth. Why did
Oh
anyone?
my God. I love it.
But with that kind of, obviously I've developed my confidence, and I teach people confidence as well. But, with that type of confidence, you're able to hit the bedroom, hit the boardroom, hit the dating scene, and it's just okay.
Absolutely. It is, and in my mind, it is the one determining factor above all others. No matter what world you work in, live in, play in, um, being confident is going to give you that edge over anyone else who's got
Mhm.
the same resume, who's got the same, height, who's got the same any of these things. If you have confidence, it just knocks you up to the other levels. So,
Especially in the sense of imperfection, right? Because, something like
vulnerability.
that, yes, because it's well, of course, you're confident. Well, you have this perfect background, your hair
Right.
looks good, everything. It's of
Yeah, yeah,
course
yeah.
you're now because
That's
you're
right.
rocking it.
Right.
But there's probably been other times in your life that you've been kind of had to tap into that confidence where it wasn't such a perfect scenario, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, like a huge one. So I'll do a little bit of my backstory here because that's a really good segue. Um, so growing up, I moved around a
Love it
lot.
in my interviewing skills.
This is amazing. I'm like, did she research this? Um, I was so growing up, I moved around a lot. Every year I was in a new school. I had to relearn how to connect with people and calibrate to this new environment and develop relationships. So every year, fresh start. So I became a natural. I could just naturally connect with people. I could build relationships. Um, I'd be able to get into a new school, suss out, where I could get a foothold, and then use that to leverage into kind of better relationships and better opportunities. And I was doing it all unconsciously. It was just
Mhm.
survival, essentially. when I was in grade 10, I went to Columbine High School.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I wasn't there for the shooting, but I was in grade 10 when the people who committed the murders were in grade 9. So
Wow.
I had seen them around, and I was graduated when they were seniors.
Mhm.
So I was in university, but the incident freaked me out. And I realized that there was something wrong with the way that we connect with each other. And I was just like, ugh.
Mhm.
In university, I'm studying communication. The day I graduate, the day I hand in my last paper, I'm diagnosed with skin cancer.
Mm.
And for anyone who's watching video, you can see I have a scar that runs down my face right here. So I had to have major surgery to pull this cancer out. And my face for like, I don't know, a year and a half was like that, because they had to like stretch the skin down. And I became super self-conscious. I became a recluse. I felt like everyone was judging me all the time, and I just felt like I couldn't authentically be confident. It felt like an act. It felt like I had to fake whatever I was doing. And I got depressed.
Mm.
And I had to, at that point, essentially rebuild my confidence and take 8 or 9 months of, I'd say 8 or 9 months I was fully depressed. And after about 8 or 9 months, I was like, okay, if this is my life, if this is my face, then I have to accept it, and I have to grow, and I want to be one of those stories of people that bounce back, after, everything
So my
falls.
business's name is Bounce Back.
Oh,
I swear we're like twins.
I love it.
Yeah,
Oh, amazing.
I love it. Yeah, no, I'm
That's
just
so
like,
cool.
your stories like
Yeah.
this, so many commonalities. I know. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay. So yeah, I spent I probably spent another year and a half, like
Mhm.
reading books and watching people and trying to rebuild my confidence. And then over the course of time, I started getting good results again. And I was like, oh, okay, I see that when I did this, that worked because that's something I used to do, but now it doesn't feel congruent because I feel like I'm faking it. But I just do it, and then they respond positively, and then I actually feel confident. Huh. And it made me start thinking, like, which order does this actually happen? Are you confident and then things happen? Or do you go do something, you get a positive response, and then you start feeling confident? And so I realized that there was this kind of like a matrix that we can play with
Mhm.
in reality, especially the social realm. The social realm to me is um, it's the most malleable and the most um, in I don't know, the level of engagement that you can create in your life. You can just really do a whole lot more in your social life than in anything else. Your professional life, there's certain things that need to show up. You need to have a certain type of typing skill, or, you need to work on this particular programming asset or whatever. So, but when it comes to your social life, you can kind of play with the magic a lot more. And so I realized that I had forcefully stumbled upon a way to connect with people in a more authentic way, even more authentic than I had done it before, because before I was a natural, but I was unconscious about my behaviors. After going through all this and kind of finding my way back out, I realized that I could do the same things as I did before, but do it from a conscious place and know that my behaviors are not just reactive to the environment. They're actually me choosing how I want to engage. And so, yeah, so that was, man, that was like 19 years ago. And now, yeah, now I'm, 13 years into teaching this professionally, and I've worked with tens of thousands of men, and I'm happily married. And I feel like over the course, especially over the last like 5 years, I've really stepped into being what I teach in a really
Mhm.
deeply authentic way. And yeah, it feels really good to be in congruence with it now.
So I'm currently obsessed with the first 10 minutes of interaction within the dating process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
The
Because
dance.
yes, and I feel like there's a lot out there, becoming toxic person proof. Don't ignore the red flags. I mean, there's so many things out there on that piece. But then when I started really coaching women, it was like, but how do I get them to approach me? How do I approach them? And it's like, oh my gosh. And I was raised as a preacher's kid, right?
Okay.
So I didn't move around all the time, but I was thrust into very uncomfortable social situations, like going to the hospital while someone dies or going to a funeral every week.
Wow.
Right? Every week. So there's not a lot of social situations as an adult that feels awkward because
you've done it.
Bad, right? It's never that bad. But just like it was like, okay, that's where I developed that skill of having to talk to the nurses or having to talk to strangers or having to talk to adults. And so you develop those social skills pretty innately. But some people haven't, and it's really holding them back in the dating process, because if you cannot get the first 10 minutes right, you can't get the next 10 years right.
Well said. And what's funny too is everyone's doing online dating now, which is it's a great tool and it has its place, but you still got to go on a first date. You can't be pen pals, like that's not what you're trying to create. So even if you can get past the first initial kind of awkwardness of the approach by sending a message, you still got to hang out at some point. You still got to build that chemistry. My whole thing is real life. That's my whole kind of model for the last 13 years has been, how can you connect as authentically as possible in real life? And those first 10 minutes.
Devon, I need to make sure. So you're not saying, how can you appear to be someone you're not so that they'll like you and change and morph into the person you secretly want them to be and you'll live happily ever after? Is that not?
No, you are correct in hearing me. That is not what I'm saying.
The subconscious stuff that we don't say out loud, but that people do, right? And it's
totally. Yeah. How can I be what you want me to be, so that you'll get to a point where you just accept me as I am? But then it just doesn't work that way,
Well, and then how can you accept me, this version of me, and then once we're comfortable, I'm going to change, and then I'm going to ask you to start changing so that you can be a different one.
Right. That is just a lot of work.
And it's not working. Right.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, so 15 minutes. I interrupted you, but it was
well, I think I interrupted you because you were talking about the first 10 minutes, but I'll go off on the first 10 minutes quickly. So the first 10 minutes is that approach, and from the men's perspective, and I believe that it is my personal position is the dynamic is best when the man is pursuing the woman. So that's not to say that she can't initiate first contact, but
can
she
you
needs to.
Whose job is what? Yeah, sure. Let's look at that. It's like, okay, if that's the case, because women do. I'm a woman hearing this. I'm thinking, oh, good. That means I don't have to do anything, and I know that's not.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, puppy.
Little bud here. Hey, bud. So I'll first start with the woman's role. So, and I'm always afraid that I'm going to sound misogynistic or something, but it's truly not my intention. But I just believe that the man should pursue, the man should.
Every male dating coach has said that.
What's that? Every
male dating coach has said that. So don't feel.
Yeah. So, well, it sounds like a bunch of misogynists, but okay. So the dynamic for me is best created when she is in the selecting position, where she gets to choose if she wants to accept his approach. But before his approach, she has to open the door to him. She doesn't have to, but the best dynamic is that she creates some kind of opening, eye contact, a smile, if it's really subtle and there's already some energy, movement of the hair, things like that, these small little indicators that let him know, okay, it's it would be safe to approach. I'm not going to make her uncomfortable if I approach. She's interested in engaging.
Which is especially important for nice guys who are not players, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And a big part of what I do is helping nice guys become good men.
Hmm.
There's like the nice guy, there's the bad boy, and then women usually just oscillate and get bored and then get hurt and then get bored and then get hurt. But what they're ultimately looking for is the good man.
Yeah.
And the good man is willing to be assertive. He's willing to set a boundary with her. He's willing to be, vulnerable and honest about his feelings. He's kind of the whole package. He's able to present that loving, generous energy, but also that boundaried, hey, I'm on my own mission, and I want to invite you to join me, but my mission is first. And if I can find a love that we can intertwine, awesome. And so,
and I'm going to decode what you said through the ears of my listeners. So what he's not saying is you can't have your own mission, or you have to be his not the main event in your own life. That is not what Devon is saying, right? At all. Because I'm filtering through like what they.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Thank you. Yeah. So my wife is on her own journey. She's an amazing artist. She's got her own career. She's busy, so busy, and I'm on my own path and my own journey, and I'm also so busy. And we have figured out how to let our loves intertwine. And so that is what I'm saying. Both of us have to be whole to create, our love. So to me, the woman's job is, and she can also initiate. She can also, compliment him, say, hey, I really like that, that jacket, or, I really like your style. Giving a compliment that he can, if he's feeling the energy, he can be like, wow, thank you. Yeah, you have great style too. What's your name? And strike up a conversation. So that way she can initiate, but now he needs to take the reins and pursue her.
Yeah. Or even something, oh, what book are you reading? Oh, cute dog. Oh,
absolutely.
Is your coffee cold in this weather? Right. I mean, if it feels
100%.
Yes, if it feels uncomfortable to do something along the lines of looks, and you want to even start your opening.
Totally.
Right?
Absolutely. 100%. So again, she can initiate first contact, but then she needs to have him take control. And the reason I say this is because everything is a microcosm for everything else. So if she is initiating, most likely throughout the relationship, that will be a pattern that is now ingrained in the relationship. If she's kind of moving the needle the whole way, and what that does is that's going to train him that he can just wait. And she will ultimately become unattracted in him if he is a man who just waits. So, and that's not to say that a man always has to be go, go, go. I think, managing your energy and being, tactful about when you move on things is fine. But if you're just always in a state of passive, then the sex life will be weird. The financial dynamic will be weird. Everything will start to get a little out of balance. And so she can initiate, or he can initiate. But then once that first contact has been opened up, now it's his job to drive the conversation. And I would say in a lot of ways, he's going to be the kind of wind in the sails, moving things forward. And she's going to be like the rudder, steering the ship. Oh yeah, let's go over here. I'm comfortable with that. And he's going to be moving the energy forward.
That's your text as well, if it's an online thing?
Well, with that, I say you really just want to try to match each other's communication style as much as possible, and then get off of text as quickly as possible.
Yeah, what are your suggestions on that? I know
Yeah.
that's you. Mm-hmm.
So I would do a couple back and forths, and then I would, as quickly as possible, get onto a call like this. So a
Mm-hmm.
video call, get to know each other, hear each other's voices, see each other's, body language, find out what you guys have in common and connection points. And then these days with, the environment as it is, I don't think you need to push for an in-person date right away. I'd say 2 of these is probably a good move just to really make sure you're comfortable. Um, I think it's good, and this is kind of a little bit of a hack, but I think it's good to like move your camera around a little bit, do a little tour of my house, you do a
Okay.
tour of your house.
Uh-huh.
Now we're kind of in each other's homes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We have this experience of seeing the environment. And so if one of us does come over to the other person's house at some point, we've got this kind of like, oh yeah, oh, okay, interesting. I sort of pictured it a little differently, but this feels nice. Yeah. So there's this experience of getting closer without, having to physically be together. And then what I would recommend is a coffee and a walk as your first date. I would set the parameters early that, we're just going to go grab a coffee. Let's not, block off 6 hours for this thing. It's just going to be a coffee and a stroll. If you're on the walk and there's a really good vibe and you guys are just like laughing the whole time and you can just tell it's good, where are you? Where do you live?
I'm in Tennessee.
Okay. Well, up here in Vancouver, like the
Vancouver,
lockdown is in full effect.
Vancouver is beautiful. It looks like
Oh
your
yeah,
house. Oh, it's gorgeous.
yeah.
I've been in the spring, which is the best time, but I have lots of ladies in Vancouver.
Oh,
I've had
cool. Yeah, Vancouver is gorgeous. It's coming into the nice part. It's like blue skies today and very nice, but winter.
pretty.
But because there's restrictions on going out for drinks and stuff like that, what I'm recommending people do is just kind of be cheeky and go
Mhm.
grab a couple beers from, the liquor store and just go for a walk on the beach. And, like these days, people aren't really like cops aren't being weird about that kind of stuff because it's just so
Mhm.
crazy. As long as you're not being, a rascal about it and you're just, walking quietly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I think it's okay to go grab a drink and keep the walk going a little later, but cut it off. I'm not a big fan of rushing to sex. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people make. I like to build a lot of connection and then explore sex when that feels appropriate. Usually like date 4 or 5, I think is a good range.
If a girl was wanting to wait,
Yeah.
what should she say to the guy?
Yeah. Okay.
I know. As soon as I was like, oh, they're going to say, well, how do I, what, or however
All right.
long.
You ready? You ready to get sexy? Okay. So this is what you say. You say, so you say, hey, listen, I'm feeling a lot of sexual connection right now. I feel a lot of good energy between you and I. And for me to really give myself to you the way that I like to give myself during sex, I just want to build more trust and more connection and just a bit more time. So what I'd love to do is wait, maybe like 4 or 5 dates, or maybe, you say this at like date 2. So like 3 more dates and really just like build up some more tension so that when we do finally come together, it's what we both want. It's like this high level sexual chemistry. When you frame it like that, you're describing like, oh, if I can just wait a little longer, I get double the pleasure. So I think what the mistake that a lot of women make, and it tends to be women, obviously, in this dynamic. Men are often like, I'm good, you good? So for women, the mistake that they make is they make it like a boundary rather than an opportunity.
Yes.
I refuse to have sex with you until this. No, I can't wait to have sex with you once this. And that shift is going to communicate right to the deep part of his brain going, oh my God, yeah, 100%.
And sets you apart, right? I mean, that is showing the boundaries. It sets you apart.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Devon, we're gonna have to talk again. Okay, so I do want to point out what I heard was that in the online space to try to make it as real life as possible. Because sometimes I see girls and they'll freak out. They're like, well, I'm not going to turn my video on. Or I don't want to send him a full body shot. And they think it's like offensive. Like at some point it's like, well, if he loved me for me, it's like, he loved you for you. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You've not met this person.
Exactly.
Right. And so I think I've not thought of it in that way, but as you were describing it, it's saying we're just trying to make the online experience as close to as if you met each other in real life, where they would see what you looked like, where they would see who you were.
Yeah.
Is that
exactly?
What you're saying?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, what you're ultimately trying to do is build trust between the two of you. And so having multiple touch points, so having like a couple texts, a couple of these, those are going to build more trust, and showing the space is going to give them an experience of having almost multiple dates. If we did this here, and then the next call I do it from upstairs, and then the next call I do it from out on the patio, you're going to have this experience of, oh, there were all these different times we hung out. And so it kind of like builds trust quicker. So so yeah, I think it's about trying to make the online experience close to reality, and then get into reality quickly. I would love to do chat that, like, in the next day or two after we start chatting, do one of these, 3 days later do another one of these, and then 3-4 days later meet up for that coffee. So that way, within the week of connection, you're kind of taking it to the next level.
Well, I like what you said as far as building trust, because nobody wants to be, I think girls like, oh, why does he have to see like a full body shot? Why is that all, and we're not talking about with your clothes off. That's not what I'm saying.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, and they're really resistant to it. And I'm like, I like framing it like you're building trust. Like, are you who you appear to be online? Because that's a concern.
Exactly.
Right? That's a concern for everyone.
Absolutely.
I really got to talk again because we have to wrap this up soon. But I want to ask you where the good guys are, because that's always the question I get asked. And it's one of I have lots of theories on it, but I love to ask other people.
Well, I mean, they're everywhere, obviously. The problem is
they were hidden in a cave.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
a
they were
cave in Lithuania. Yeah, they're everywhere. The problem is they're not the loud ones.
Which is why that first 10 minutes, the conversation is such a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm obsessed with right now, because they're not the loud ones. Thank you.
They're not the loud ones. They're rarely the ones that are going to approach. But they do. I work with tons of men who are kind of recovering nice guys that are now good men, and they're speaking from a place of authenticity, and they're going after what they want, and they're expressing themselves authentically to women that they're attracted to. So I'd say it's more about what green flags can you look for that they will unconsciously be carrying around. And so that would be okay, just like, this is pretty subtle, but you can just sort of tell someone who is, not overly cocky. They have a certain confidence, and they have like this kind of like really gentle smile on their face, not like a scared smile, but just kind of like okay, everything's all right kind of energy. And they are going to potentially approach, but they're probably not going to do a direct approach. They're probably going to do more of a casual, hey, I like, that book. That was an amazing book. I won't spoil it, but it's going to change your life. Like those kind of little offerings are what we all need to be ready for. And here's the big issue. And again, I worked with a lot of women, and this is what I hear so often from women is they're like, I just wish guys would approach. I just wish a man would approach. God, why are they so scared to approach? And then they do approach, and then the woman's like, yeah, it's really good.
I'm with you. I get it.
Yeah, and they don't give that energy back. And you have to think that the guys who you want to connect with are most likely not going to plow through your resistance. Now, the guys who work with me are. The guys who work with me are going to be like, okay, she's a little nervous too. Let me just hang back for a second, and then I'll throw another olive branch out and see, how she responds. But most men are going to build up the confidence, do one thing, any resistance, and they're going to be like, oh, okay, sorry, don't want to bother. So I'd say for women listening to this, a big part of your work is going to be being open to those moments and capitalizing on them when they do come. And also, as we talked about at the beginning, creating those little, openings for the guy to feel like, oh, this is an invitation that I can, move on.
An invitation, you can have a freaking conversation. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
They put pressure on it, right? And it's like, oh, I've got to marry him. Is he this? How many
Yeah,
gifts?
exactly.
And it's like, just think in that first 10 minutes, the goal is a conversation, a good conversation.
Yeah.
Not
one of my rules when I teach, one of my rules is if you do an approach, if you're talking to a woman, your intention is not to get her number.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the intention until like the last 10%. Everything else is seeing if you want to get her number. So that first part of the conversation is just a fun conversation with a random stranger, which I think we can all agree these days we need a bit more of that in our lives, a little bit more random moments and random connections and random acts of kindness together. And yeah, so that first 10 minutes, I mean, that is really where so much of the magic is planted. And then from that grows the garden that is my home.
Oh, some people end where it crashes, right? I'm obsessed with the
right.
first conversation. I'm obsessed with it right now, and it's exactly what's happening. Oh my gosh. Okay, Devon, tell people where they can find more about you.
Yeah, right on. I'd say Instagram is probably the best place to find the stuff that my wife and I are doing, which I'm really proud of, which is at Tell Me Often. And so that is, it's like relationship advice, kind of pretty much just walking people through what our experience of being married and falling in love is. And then, I'd say that's probably the best place to find me at this point. I think people are going to get, like, especially if you're primarily a female audience, I think Tell Me Often is where they should go check out our stuff.
Awesome. Well, I did not know that about Devon. I knew about some of the other stuff he had done because we're connected in some other ways. But yeah, that's awesome. Devon, thank you so much for helping us on our journey to becoming toxic person proof.
Love it.